Imagine the year is 1942. The Battle of Midway, one of the most pivotal moments in naval history, is unfolding in the Pacific. As you look at the aircraft carriers of that era, they appear almost quaint by today's standards. These were steel boxes, covered in wood, barely capable of launching unguided bombs into the wind. The American pilots relied on their eyes, peering through dirty canopies as they executed high-stakes missions. Their only advantage was courage, and perhaps the hope that the clouds might conceal them long enough to strike. It was a time when victory hinged on sheer bravery, luck, and the unpredictable nature of war. Now, fast forward 80 years. The USS Gerald R emerges, a floating city built on the very same geometric principles as its predecessors, but with a striking difference. Beneath its sleek surface, this carrier represents the pinnacle of technological advancement. The same flat deck, the same towering structure, but everything else has changed. The power that once relied on heavy oil and steam is now driven by nuclear energy. Gone are the days of pilots relying solely on their eyes and instincts. Instead, we now have radar systems so advanced they can see into space, tracking the enemy with precision before they even know we're watching. However, in a way, the USS Gerald R. Ford still shares something with its World War II predecessors: the constant evolution of threats. Today, it faces anti-ship ballistic missiles and hypersonic warheads traveling at Mach 5. It faces swarms of suicide drones that strike with unrelenting precision. These threats are faster, smarter, and far more deadly than anything that could have been imagined back in 1942. So, the question is, why do we continue to build these massive 100,000-ton ships when logic might tell us that bigger could easily mean a bigger target? Are we stuck in the past, clinging to the nostalgia of World War II? No, nostalgia does not win wars. The answer lies in geometry and industrial capacity. We didn't build the USS Gerald R. Ford to fight the Battle of Midway again. We built it to manipulate the very laws of physics, to create a kill web so mathematically precise that no enemy can calculate a firing solution. This is the evolution of naval warfare. Not a bigger ship, but a smarter system that ensures the safety of our sailors and the effectiveness of our global presence. The evolution of naval power is not just a story of bigger ships and more advanced weaponry. It's a story of adapting to an ever-changing battlefield. In 1942, the United States Navy fought with machines that were, by today's standards, incredibly basic. The aircraft were slow, the bombs were unguided, and the technology for detecting and targeting the enemy was rudimentary at best. Victory often came down to luck, the cloud cover, the visibility, and the sheer bravery of the young men who took to the skies. The human element was just as critical as the machines they flew. Fast forward to today, and the situation has changed entirely. The USS Gerald R. Ford doesn't just represent a step forward in size. It is a leap forward in capability. On the surface, it might seem familiar, a floating city, much like the carriers of the past. But beneath that surface, it's a technological marvel. We've moved from burning oil to splitting the atom, and we've gone from spotting enemy ships with binoculars to tracking them with AESA radar systems. These radars don't just see ships in the immediate vicinity. They can track objects moving hundreds, even thousands of miles away, providing us with real-time information that was once impossible to obtain. Yet, with all these advancements, we still face threats that challenge even the most advanced technology. The new threats are faster, more precise, and more elusive. Anti-ship ballistic missiles can travel at supersonic speeds, reducing our reaction time to mere seconds. Impersonic warheads, moving at Mach 5 or greater, are almost impossible to intercept in time. And then there are the drones. Small, nimble, and capable of carrying explosive payloads. They swarm the battlefield in ways that traditional defense systems weren't designed to counter. These new challenges highlight one of the biggest paradoxes of modern warfare. No matter how advanced our technology becomes, the threats we face seem to outpace our ability to counter them. In the past, a single carrier might have been enough to project power over the oceans. Today, the very existence of that carrier could be at risk, from a missile that travels faster than the speed of sound, or from a swarm of drones that can overwhelm even the most sophisticated defenses. But this is the nature of military innovation. With each new threat, we find new ways to adapt. It's no longer just about having the biggest ship or the most powerful weapons. It's about the ability to think ahead, to anticipate where the enemy might strike, and to deploy systems that can neutralize threats before they even have a chance to take aim. When you think about naval warfare today, it's not just the weapons or the technology that present a challenge. It's the very shape of the Earth itself. Modern naval tactics face a dilemma that has existed since the dawn of naval combat: how to detect and neutralize threats that are hidden just over the horizon. For decades, radar systems have been the backbone of naval defense, allowing ships to detect incoming threats from hundreds of miles away. But there's a fundamental problem. Radar energy travels in straight lines, and the Earth is a sphere. At sea level, if a radar is placed on the mast of a ship, which may be 100 feet above the water, the radar's range is limited to roughly 20 to 30 nautical miles. Beyond that, the curvature of the Earth blocks the signal. This is the radar horizon, a barrier that severely limits the ability to detect incoming threats at longer distances. It's a geometric nightmare that has kept naval officers awake at night, constantly trying to find ways around this limitation. Now, imagine an incoming anti-ship missile. These are no longer the slow-moving torpedoes of the past. Today's missiles are supersonic, capable of traveling at Mach 3 or faster. If a missile is flying at sea-skimming altitude, just 30 feet above the water, the curvature of the Earth effectively hides it from the ship's radar until it is almost too late. This is where the real challenge lies. A missile flying at Mach 3 will cover 30 nautical miles in less than 30 seconds. That's the entire time a ship has to react. 30 seconds to detect, identify, and classify the threat, then calculate a firing solution, and finally launch a counterattack. If that missile is flying at a speed faster than the ship can process, then even the most advanced radar systems are rendered useless. In this scenario, the ship's radar is blind. The missile is hidden behind the curve of the Earth, moving faster than the ship can react. The clock is ticking, and the consequences of failure are deadly. The solution, then, is not just to improve radar range or sensitivity. The answer lies in a more sophisticated network, one that expands beyond the limitations of a single ship's radar horizon. It involves a complete rethinking of how we detect and respond to threats. This brings us to one of the key innovations of modern naval strategy: the creation of a kill web. Rather than relying on a single radar system to detect and engage targets, the Navy has developed a networked system where different ships, aircraft, and sensors work together to track and engage targets across vast distances. In modern naval warfare, the idea of a linear kill chain has become obsolete. In the past, a ship would spot a target, engage it, and hope for the best. However, with the radar horizon and the increasing speed of modern threats, that approach simply doesn't work anymore. Today, the United States Navy employs a far more sophisticated concept: the kill web. This isn't just a system, it's a network of networks, a web of sensors, ships, and aircraft that work together to create a seamless and integrated defense and offensive capability. The kill web is a concept rooted in collaboration. In simple terms, a ship doesn't need to see the target directly to destroy it. Instead, it can rely on other assets: aircraft, drones, satellites, even other ships scattered across the battle space. These assets, which can be hundreds of miles away, are the eyes of the ship. They can detect, track, and identify threats far beyond the radar horizon. The ship then uses that data to launch an interception without ever directly seeing the target itself. This is called engage on remote. The idea is simple, but revolutionary. Ships like the Arleigh-Burke-class destroyer can launch missiles like the SM-6, which are capable of intercepting threats even if the ship's own radar cannot see them. Instead, the data from a distant aircraft like the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye or the F-35, which are hundreds of miles away, is used to guide the missile to its target. This is not an old-fashioned radio call with coordinates being passed over the air. This is fire control quality data. A precise, real-time feed that allows the ship to fire with pinpoint accuracy, as if it were directly observing the target. The result? The radar horizon is no longer the limiting factor. If the ship has access to a sensor beyond the horizon, whether it's from an aircraft, a satellite, or another ship, it can use that data to extend its operational range and engage targets at distances that were previously unimaginable. It's no longer about seeing the enemy. It's about knowing exactly where they are, no matter where they are. The beauty of this approach lies in its integration. The Navy is no longer dependent on the radar capabilities of a single ship or platform. The kill web allows every asset in the fleet to contribute to the defense of each ship, creating a cooperative, layered defense system. This interconnectedness ensures that even if one ship's radar is jammed or blocked by the horizon, the rest of the fleet can still fight effectively. It's a system that turns the individual weaknesses of one platform into collective strengths, creating a far more resilient and capable force. But, as with any complex system, this new method of warfare requires both cutting-edge technology and careful engineering. It requires weapons that can reach across vast distances with unparalleled precision. And that's where the AIM-174B comes in. In the face of advanced threats, the kill web is only part of the equation. The real challenge in modern warfare, however, lies in defense. How do you protect a carrier strike group from a saturation attack by hundreds of anti-ship missiles, drones, or aircraft? It's not enough to simply shoot down threats. Modern defense systems need to be smart, efficient, and scalable. The old method of shooting down missiles with other missiles, hard kill, is still used, but it's not always practical. Anti-missile systems like the SM-6 are incredibly effective, but they cost millions of dollars each. When a single missile can cost $4 million, and the enemy might send a swarm of low-cost drones or missiles worth only a fraction of that, the economics of war start to shift. A single engagement could cost more than an entire fleet's worth of drones. Enter soft kill methods, defensive strategies that don't involve intercepting missiles with other missiles, but instead seek to confuse, deceive, or disable the incoming threats. These strategies are often more economical and provide a critical line of defense, especially when dealing with overwhelming numbers of threats. One of the most advanced systems in the Navy's arsenal is the SEWIP Block 3, a sophisticated electronic warfare system designed to confuse and disable incoming missiles. Rather than just jamming enemy radars with crude noise, as was done in the past, SEWIP Block 3 uses a technology called Digital Radio Frequency Memory, DRFM. Essentially, it acts as a malicious tape recorder, capturing the radar signals of an incoming missile, then modifying and retransmitting those signals back at the missile. This creates confusion, making the missile believe it is targeting a completely different object, or in some cases, hundreds of ghost targets. But what happens when the enemy missile is too smart? What if it has built-in countermeasures for jamming? This is where the Navy turns to the Nulka decoy system, a marvel of aerospace engineering. Instead of just scattering chaff or flares to distract incoming missiles, the Nulka uses complex thrust vectoring to fly away from the ship and create a massive electronic radar signature that appears far larger and more important than the carrier itself. The decoy then leads the missile away from the ship, much like a matador guiding a bull into an empty arena. The missile locks onto the decoy, thinking it's the target, only to follow it away from the carrier. These layered defense systems, SEWIP Block 3 and NULCA, act as the first line of defense. But what happens when those defenses fail and an incoming missile manages to breach the perimeter? That's when we enter the realm of hard kill, and the Navy's defense systems must take over. The ESSM Block II missile system is one of the best examples of this shift in defense technology. It is capable of engaging multiple threats simultaneously, and thanks to its active radar homing, it doesn't require the ship's radar to guide it to the target. This allows the ship to defend itself against a swarm of incoming missiles without running out of radar guiding capacity. The ESSM can hunt down targets on its own, making defense more autonomous and scalable. If the ESSM doesn't stop the incoming threat, the point defense system comes into play. This is where the Rolling Airframe Missile (RAM) system takes charge. The RAM missile is designed to respond to the fastest and most nimble threats, using dual guidance to track both radar and infrared signatures. And as a last line of defense, there's the Phalanx Sea-Whiz, a 6-barrel Gatling gun capable of firing 4,500 rounds per minute, shredding incoming missiles or drones into pieces. However, there's a flaw in the Sea-Whiz system. It has limited ammunition. After about 20 seconds of continuous fire, the supply is exhausted. That brief window, just 20 seconds, is all the system has to neutralize a threat. If that doesn't work, the result is catastrophic. This brings us to the ultimate challenge, the economics of defense. If we rely on million-dollar missiles to shoot down $10,000 drones, the cost of warfare becomes unsustainable. The solution? Lasers. The Navy's Odin and Helios systems are designed to neutralize threats at a fraction of the cost. A single shot from these lasers costs less than the price of a cup of coffee, thanks to the ship's generator powering them. Lasers don't need to physically destroy a drone. They can simply burn out its sensors or confuse its guidance systems, rendering it useless. In the future of naval warfare, lasers provide a cost-effective and scalable solution to deal with cheap, swarming threats. They allow the Navy to maintain its defense capabilities over the long term, without having to burn through expensive interceptors or weapons with every engagement. At this point, it might seem that the future of naval warfare is all about technology, massive ships, advanced weapons, and sophisticated networks. Yet amid all this innovation, one thing remains unchanged: the human element. The technology, no matter how advanced, can't function without the people who operate it. The sailors who make it work under pressure, and the warriors who take it into battle. In the end, it's not the machines alone that determine the outcome of a conflict, but the spirit of the people who wield them. The USS Gerald R. Ford is a symbol of American ingenuity, but it is also a tribute to the sailors who will stand watch over it. Just as the pilots of 1942 relied on their courage and instincts, today's sailors rely on their training, skill, and the technology at their disposal. But their resolve, just like those who fought at Midway, remains the same: to defend and protect, no matter the cost. Looking back at the Battle of Midway, we see how much has changed. In 1942, victory depended on sheer willpower and luck, with no more than a handful of planes and a handful of bombs. The pilots didn't have the luxury of relying on algorithms or supercomputers to make decisions for them. They relied on their eyes, their instincts, and sometimes sheer blind faith in their machines. Many didn't make it back. Yet it was their bravery, their sacrifice, that turned the tide of the war. Fast forward to today, and we see a different kind of heroism. The sailors aboard modern carriers, like the Gerald R. Ford, may not have to fly into a storm of flak with nothing but a prayer and a manual gun sight, but their role is no less critical. The technology has changed, but the spirit of those who serve has not. Today, we honor their courage, not by relying on luck or chance, but by arming them with the best tools possible. Tools that increase their odds of success, ensuring they can come home safe. The USS Gerald R. Ford and its systems represent more than just military might. They represent a fusion of American grit and engineering, a testament to how far we've come from the raw courage of the 1940s. The combination of human will and technological supremacy gives the United States Navy an undeniable edge in the most dangerous of battle spaces. Our adversaries may be able to replicate our chips, steal our blueprints, but they cannot replicate the heart and spirit of the sailor standing watch in the Combat Information Center. Ultimately, this is the true definition of American power. It's not just the steel and algorithms, it's the fusion of heart, soul, and technology that keeps us ahead. The machines can be copied, but the will behind them is uniquely American. The Navy has evolved from relying solely on heroes to creating a system that ensures those heroes not only survive, but thrive. It's the very fusion of technology and human determination that allows us to dominate the electromagnetic spectrum and navigate the most complex conflicts of our time. So, take one last look at that ship. Some critics call it a target. I see it as a monument to industrial audacity, a marvel of engineering, and a testament to the unwavering spirit of those who serve. And as